In 1938, the Allies believed that Hitler was planning to develop a new weapon which would revolutionize warfare, the atomic bomb. The United States funded a secret operation called the Manhattan Project to develop the bomb first. The first test, the Trinity test, in New Mexico in 1945, marked the start of a revolution based on the power of the atom.
Well, it certainly was revolutionary in this sense. It's a real human achievement to unlock the secrets of the atom, and it's something that obviously has not been done before. So that ranks right up there with some of the major achievements like going to the moon and learning how to fly as major human achievements.
The new atomic bombs brought a sudden end to World War II when 100,000 people were killed in Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August of 1945.
Warfare would never be the same. Bombs this terrible could wipe out cities and potentially destroy the world.
Many countries reacted quickly, determined to develop atomic weapons, which they believed were crucial to their safety. The Soviet Union, which turned from an American ally to rival the moment World War II ended, tested its first atomic bomb just 4 years later. Learning of this new threat in 1950, President Truman announced a speedy plan for the United States to build a super bomb, the hydrogen bomb, which would be tens or thousands of times more powerful than an atomic bomb. Many scientists in the Atomic Energy Commission, including Robert Oppenheimer, the man who led the Manhattan Project, hated the idea of building a more destructive weapon and argued that the U.S. should not try to build a hydrogen bomb. However, Truman, backed by many other scientists, gave the order for the development to continue.
In 1952, the first hydrogen bomb was tested in the United States. The Soviet Union reacted by developing its own hydrogen bombs. Each country reacted to each new addition to the other's nuclear arsenal by building more weapons than they could ever use.
The Soviet invention of intercontinental ballistic missiles, which could fly across the continent to bomb the enemy, spurred America to build its own new delivery system, a submarine which could maneuver close to the Soviet coastline and fire its nuclear warhead from underwater. 40 days later, the Soviets had their first underwater ballistic missile launched off a submarine.
In response to the growing nuclear threats, both sides developed anti-ballistic missiles, which could shoot incoming missiles out of the sky. Reactions varied widely between the nuclear club and non-nuclear countries. In nuclear states, including the USA and USSR, as well as newcomers such as Britain, which went nuclear in 1952, France, which exploded its first bomb in 1960, and China, which joined the club in 1966. Reactions were generally positive.
However, as nuclear proliferation expert Dr. Jarman said, once a few nations have nuclear weapons, others may feel that they too should acquire them for their own security. That is how the disease spread. Nuclear weapons instantly propelled the USA and the USSR to the position of superpowers, whose huge nuclear arsenals made them far more powerful than other nations, even other nuclear countries.
Non-nuclear countries reacted to this power change by allying themselves with one superpower or another. The Soviet Union and the USA were locked in a Cold War. Neither side dared to directly attack the other with nuclear weapons.
Even a direct conventional attack was too risky, but they clashed indirectly through conflicts such as the Korean War and the Vietnam War. The revolutionary idea of MAD, or mutually assured destruction, stated that no country would wage nuclear war because it would be annihilated itself.
the main instigators who would start a nuclear war were Russia and America, both of whom had thousands of hydrogen bombs on hair trigger alert, ready to go, and they go from woe to go in half an hour. And in that half an hour, the other country sees the weapons coming with their satellites and they press their button.
Few citizens expected nuclear war until 1962, when Americans discovered that the Soviet Union was installing long-range missiles on Cuba, which could devastate southeastern United States. President Kennedy reacted by installing a naval blockade around Cuba. Expecting nuclear war, the world held their breaths. Citizens across Europe protested against the aggressive actions of the United States.
Finally, the Soviet ships bearing missiles turned back just before the blockade, and after negotiations, missiles were removed.
The negative reaction across the globe didn't die out. Anti-nuclear groups sprang up across the globe, such as the Campaign for Nuclear Disarmament.
These citizens called for reform before nuclear war would destroy the world. Ironically, the enormously powerful nuclear bomb also revolutionized war strategies. Previously, nations had bombed civilians and soldiers indiscriminately, but after witnessing the power of the atom, which could wipe out a city in seconds, governments began to reform war policies to target their weapons carefully at enemy soldiers, protecting civilians whenever possible.
Lawmakers signed a series of treaties designed to protect the world from the use of nuclear weapons. One of the most important reforms was the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, which was signed in 1968 by the governments of most countries in the world.
The NPT is essentially an agreement whereby certain states, and when I say certain, I'm referring to what we call non-nuclear weapon states, they agree to forego the desire to pursue nuclear weapons. They agree to declare all of their nuclear material, the locations of their facilities, etc. And in exchange, they are given access to peaceful nuclear technology and cooperation in the nuclear area. Another condition in that agreement, the NPT agreement, nuclear weapon state, of course, the U.S., the UK, Russia, France, and China, they agree to pursue disarmament. Unfortunately, the NPT itself does not have in it a timetable wherein nuclear weapon states are obligated to disarm. So inherent in this agreement is a natural tension between what we call the nuclear weapon states and the non-nuclear weapon states.
The next year, the SALT I talks opened between the U.S. and the USSR, resulting in two revolutionary treaties, which, for the first time, firmly reformed nuclear power policy by limiting nuclear arsenals in nuclear weapon states. Other treaties limited testing and creation of nuclear weapons even more. Despite these reforms, the world still feared that a terrorist or rogue state might obtain a bomb and kill thousands, or that nuclear fuel or waste may be taken from peaceful nuclear power plants and turned to more destructive uses.
You only need 10 pounds to make yourself an atomic bomb, so any country that has a nuclear power plant can make bombs.
However, these treaties have helped assure the world that this revolutionary but terrible weapon would be used only as a threat and never again as a weapon of mass destruction.